Martha stood before the frosted glass of the master bedroom window, watching the snow bury the driveway. But she felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter storm. Aspen in December was supposed to be a wonderland, a place where the wealthy came to escape reality. But for Martha Cole, this sprawling mansion had become nothing more than a gilded cage. She unconsciously touched the antique emerald brooch on her chest, a family heirloom from her grandmother that Charles always hated because he said it looked too ethnic for his modern tastes. He preferred diamonds, cold and sharp, just like the words he had been hurling at her for the better part of 3 decades. She turned away from the window, the heavy velvet of her deep green dress rustling softly against the silence of the room. Downstairs, the house was already humming with the quiet efficiency of the staff preparing for the annual Christmas Eve gala. Martha made her way to the kitchen, the one room in the house where the air felt warm enough to breathe. "Mrs. Higgins," she said softly, startling the housekeeper who was arranging a silver tray. Martha slipped a thick envelope into the woman's apron pocket. "For your grandchildren. Make sure they get those bicycles this year." Mrs. Higgins' eyes welled up, a silent testament to the quiet, unconditional kindness Martha had poured into this cold structure for years. "Thank you, ma'am," she whispered, squeezing Martha's hand. "You're the only soul in this house worth saving." Martha offered a sad smile before straightening her spine and walking toward the drawing room. The scent of pine and expensive cologne hit her before she even saw him. Charles was standing by the fireplace, nursing a glass of scotch, looking every bit the distinguished billionaire the magazines adored. He turned as she entered, his eyes scanning her not with affection, but with the critical gaze of an appraiser looking at a flawed painting. "Must you wear that color?" Charles sneered, taking a sip of his drink. "You blend into the shadows, Martha. Try to look brighter. For the investors." He walked over, looming over her, his presence suffocating. "Tonight is pivotal for the company. The board needs to see vitality, a fresh image. So please try not to linger in the serious conversations. You know how you get confused." Martha didn't respond to the insult. She had learned long ago that her silence was the only armor she had left. Charles reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, elegantly wrapped box. "Here, an early Christmas gift," he said, his voice dripping with a sickening sweetness. For a second, a foolish spark of hope ignited in Martha's chest. She opened the lid. Inside was not a piece of jewelry or a sentimental token. It was a bottle of high-end tone-correcting makeup, several shades lighter than her natural skin. "Just to even you out, dear." He laughed, a cruel hollow sound that echoed off the high ceilings. "We need everything to look pristine tonight. No imperfections." Martha stared at the bottle, feeling the heat rise in her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from a simmering, ancient anger. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She simply closed the box, placing it on the marble table with a deliberate, heavy click. The sound of the box hitting the stone was the only protest she allowed herself. The grand doorbell chimes deeply through the house. Charles smirks, finishing his drink. The future has arrived. Do try not to embarrass me, Martha." That gift was a slap in the face, wasn't it? If you are still watching and you're already rooting for Martha to stand up for herself, please drop a number 9 in the comments below to let me know you're here with us. And if you haven't already, I strongly recommend you subscribe to Black King and hit that notification bell. We are building a community here where dignity always wins, and you won't want to miss a single story of justice served. Your support inspires us to keep creating these powerful moments for you. Now, take a deep breath, because the future Charles is so proud of is about to walk through the door. Let's continue. The heavy oak doors swung open to reveal not an investor, but a young blonde woman wrapped in white fox fur, shivering theatrically as she clung to Charles's arm. She looked no older than 24, with skin that glowed from expensive treatments and eyes that swept over the grand foyer with naked avarice. Martha stood motionless near the staircase, her hands clasped tightly in front of her to hide their trembling. As Charles helped the woman out of her coat, light caught the sparkle of a heavy diamond bracelet on her wrist. Martha's breath hitched in her throat. She recognized that piece. It was listed as missing in the insurance files Charles had shown her just last month, a claim he had filed to balance the books. Now, it was adorning the wrist of a stranger who looked at Martha not as a person, but as part of the furniture. "Martha, this is Tiffany," Charles announced, guiding the woman forward with a protective hand on her lower back. "She's the new head of public relations I told you about. She's going to help us modernize." Tiffany offered a tight, dismissive smile. "Charmed," she said, her voice high and airy, before turning her back on Martha to admire the chandelier. "Oh, Charles, it's just as grand as you promised. But maybe we can change the drapes? They're a bit gloomy." The dinner that followed was a masterclass in humiliation. In the grand dining hall, where Martha had hosted senators and dignitaries for 30 years, she found herself standing by her usual seat at the head of the table, only to be stopped by Charles. "Not there, Martha," he said, gesturing to a chair on the side, usually reserved for guests. "Tiffany will sit at the head tonight. She needs to get used to hosting duties." Martha quietly took the side seat, watching as Tiffany settled into the high-backed velvet chair like a queen on a usurped throne. Mr. Sterling, the family lawyer and Martha's oldest friend, sat opposite her, his face unreadable, though his hand rested heavily on the thick leather briefcase by his feet. Throughout the meal, the air was thick with insults disguised as conversation. When the main course was served, Tiffany poked at the stuffing with her fork. "Is this cornbread?" she asked, wrinkling her nose. "It's a bit heavy, isn't it? I prefer something lighter, more French. But I suppose you stick to what you know, right, Martha?" Charles roared with laughter, patting Tiffany's hand. "She has a refined palate, Martha. You could learn a thing or two about sophistication from her." Martha said nothing, cutting her turkey with precise, deliberate movements, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Then came the moment that froze the room. Charles stood up, tapping his crystal glass with a silver spoon until the few uncomfortable guests fell silent. He looked around the table, his chest puffing out with pride, and placed a hand gently on Tiffany's stomach. "I have an announcement," he boomed. "To the future of the Cole dynasty. Tiffany is carrying my twin sons. Finally, heirs who look the part." The silence is deafening. Tiffany smiles cruelly at Martha and says, "Charles thinks the guest cottage is more suitable for you now. Babies need so much space, you understand?" It wasn't the infidelity that shattered the last remnant of Martha's love. It was the sheer arrogance of thinking she could be discarded like an old piece of furniture. The dinner guests, sensing the toxicity radiating from the head of the table, had awkwardly dispersed into the snowy night or retreated to their rooms, leaving the drawing room empty save for the 4 key players. The fire in the hearth crackled loudly, the only sound in a room thick with betrayal. Charles lounged on the leather sofa with Tiffany tucked under his arm, looking for all the world like a king who had just conquered a new territory. Opposite them, Martha sat on a high-backed chair, her posture perfect, her hands folded in her lap. Charles reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document, sliding it across the polished coffee table toward Martha. "I had the legal team draw this up this morning," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion other than impatience. "It's a post-nuptial separation agreement. It's generous, Martha. You get the guest cottage, a monthly allowance, and you keep your car. In exchange, you vacate the main house tonight and waive any claims to the company assets." Martha looked down at the paper without touching it. "And if I don't sign?" she asked softly. Charles laughed, a dry, sharp sound. "Then we do this the hard way. I have doctors ready to testify that your mental state has been declining. Confusion, memory loss, it wouldn't be hard to paint you as incompetent, especially at your age. You'll be institutionalized, and you'll get nothing." Tiffany chimed in, inspecting her manicure. "We're actually doing you a favor, Martha. You don't fit in this world anymore." "It's embarrassing, really." Martha looked at her husband, the man she had supported when he was nothing but an ambitious boy with a dream. She felt a profound sadness, not for herself, but for the hollowness of his soul. She glanced at Mr. Sterling in the corner. The lawyer caught her eye and gave a barely perceptible nod, signaling the trap was set. But Martha, ever the woman of grace, decided to give Charles one final chance to be decent. "Charles," she said, her voice steady and warm, "after 30 years, is this really who you want to be? I am offering you a chance to walk away with grace. You can stop this now, before it goes too far." Charles exploded with laughter. He stood up so abruptly that Tiffany yelped. "Grace? You think you are offering me grace? His face turned red with fury. I made you. I took you out of that dusty little town and gave you a life. Without me, you're nobody. You're just a diversity hire I kept around for PR. He grabbed his crystal tumbler and hurled it into the fireplace, shattering it against the stone. Martha's expression hardens into steel. She turns to the lawyer. Open the file, Arthur. Read him the morality clause and the true ownership addendum. The gloves are finally coming off, and I know you are on the edge of your seat waiting for justice. If you are still watching and find value in this story, please drop the number 8 in the comments below to let me know you are here with us. And if you haven't joined our community yet, I highly recommend you subscribe to Black King and hit that notification bell right now. You definitely don't want to miss any of our upcoming stories. Your support is what helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you every day. Now, let's open that file and see exactly what Charles has lost. The room was so quiet you could hear the snow hitting the window pane as Mr. Sterling adjusted his glasses and began to read aloud, his voice cutting through Charles's arrogance like a knife. Clause 4, Section B, the Cole estate, including the mansion and 80% of the company voting shares, is held in the Martha Washington Trust, established by the original investor, Mrs. Martha Cole, in 1985. Sterling paused, looking over the rim of his spectacles at a stunned Charles. Furthermore, Mr. Charles Cole is employed as Chief Executive Officer under a contract that explicitly voids all severance and executive privileges upon proven infidelity or moral turpitude. Charles blinked, his face draining of color as the words slowly sank in. He remembered signing papers decades ago, blinded by the influx of capital Martha's inheritance had provided to save his failing startup, never bothering to read the fine print because he assumed he could always outsmart her. That's a lie, he stammered, his voice rising an octave. I built this company. I am the face of this brand. You are an employee, Charles, Martha said, her voice calm and chillingly indifferent. And you have just been fired for cause. The humiliation was too much for his ego to bear. Charles let out a guttural roar, his face twisting into a mask of pure rage. He lunged across the space between them, his hand raised as if to strike her, screaming, "You tricked me. You ungrateful." Martha didn't flinch. She didn't cower. As his hand came down, she caught his wrist midair with a strength he didn't know she possessed. She looked him dead in the eye, and with a precision born of years of tolerance, she delivered a sharp, resounding slap across his face. Crack. The sound echoed through the drawing room like a gunshot. Charles stumbled back, clutching his cheek in shock. Compose yourself, Charles, Martha said, her voice steady. You are acting like a child. Tiffany shrieked, jumping up from the sofa. She rushed at Martha, claws out. Don't you touch him. He's the father of my twins. You're just jealous because you're barren and old. Martha turned on her heel and delivered a quick, dismissive backhand slap to Tiffany's cheek, not with the force she used on Charles, but with the disdain one might use to swat away a fly. And you, Martha said, her eyes boring into the younger woman's soul. Stop lying. She nodded to Mr. Sterling. Sterling cleared his throat, flipping a page in the file. Actually, Miss Tiffany, that brings us to the second matter. According to Dr. Evans' records, Mr. Cole underwent a vasectomy in 1995. It was a condition for an insurance policy he took out. He is sterile. Those twins cannot be his. Charles freezes, his hand still stinging from the slap. He slowly turns his head toward Tiffany, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrifying realization. The alliance of greed crumbled in seconds. There is no loyalty among thieves when the money and the lie is gone. Tiffany didn't even try to deny the lawyer's statement. Her face, previously twisted in mock outrage, went blank, then contorted into a sneer of pure disgust. She looked from the red-faced, sputtering Charles to the calm, imposing figure of Martha, and did the math instantly. You lied. Charles whispered, his voice trembling. You said I was the only one. Oh, grow up, Charles, Tiffany snapped, her high-pitched voice grating against the stone walls. Did you really think I wanted you for your personality? You're an old man with a dye job. She grabbed her white fur coat from the sofa, throwing it over her shoulders. And if you're fired, you're broke. I'm not sticking around for the bankruptcy hearings. The babies are my exes. At least he has a future. She started walking toward the door, her heels clicking aggressively on the marble floor. Charles stood paralyzed, watching his future dynasty walk away. The illusion he had sacrificed his marriage for had evaporated, leaving him with nothing but the wreckage of his own making. Panic, cold and sharp, seized his chest. He turned to Martha, falling to his knees and grabbing the hem of her emerald dress. Tears streamed down his face, mixing with the sweat of his humiliation. "Martha, please," he sobbed, a pathetic shadow of the arrogant man from an hour ago. "I was a fool. She tricked me. You know I love you. We can fix this. I'll change. Don't leave me here with nothing." Martha looked down at him, her expression softening not with forgiveness, but with pity. She gently pulled her dress from his grasp. "You didn't love me, Charles. You loved that I made you feel powerful. You loved that I was the silent foundation you could stand on to look tall. But power without character is just noise. And tonight, the house is finally quiet." She walked past him, toward the grand foyer where Tiffany was struggling with the heavy front latch. "Wait," Martha commanded. Her voice wasn't loud, but it stopped Tiffany in her tracks. Martha approached the younger woman, who shrank back, expecting another slap. Instead, Martha reached out and firmly unclasped the emerald necklace from Tiffany's neck. The heavy gems felt cold and solid in her hand, a weight she was happy to carry again. "This belonged to a woman who knew the value of hard work," Martha said, fastening the clasp around her own neck, where it belonged. "You haven't earned the right to wear it. And neither has he." Martha puts the necklace in her pocket, dons her coat, and signals the staff. "I'll send for my things. Good night, Charles." She opens the heavy door and walks out into the snowy night, leaving him alone in the cold mansion. 6 months later, the ice had melted from the Aspen Peaks, and Martha sat on the porch of her ancestral home in Charleston, watching the magnolias bloom. The air here was different, heavy with the scent of jasmine and sea salt, a stark contrast to the sterile, pine-scented cold of the mansion she had left behind. On the wicker table beside her tea, a single letter from Mr. Sterling rested atop a folded newspaper. The legal stationery confirmed the final transfer of assets. The newspaper headline, tucked discreetly below the fold, read, "Former real estate tycoon indicted for fraud." It was a quiet end to a loud life. Charles had lost the company, his reputation, and his freedom, all in a desperate attempt to cover the financial holes Martha stopped filling the night she walked out. Martha took a sip of her iced tea, listening to the laughter drifting from the garden. Today was the inaugural luncheon for the Martha Cole Scholarship for Young Architects, a program designed to help young women of color build the foundations of their own dreams without needing anyone else's permission. A group of bright-eyed men sat around a garden table, discussing blueprints and skylines with a passion that reminded Martha of her younger self. She wasn't just a donor to them. She was a mentor, a matriarch, a survivor. One of the young women, a girl named Maya with braids and a sharp intellect, walked up to the porch. She hesitated for a moment before nodding toward the newspaper. "Mrs. Cole," she asked softly, "do you ever look back? Do you hate him for the years he took?" Martha set her glass down, the condensation cool against her fingers. She looked at the photo of Charles in the paper, haggard, angry, alone. She searched her heart for anger, for bitterness, for the rage that had fueled that slap 6 months ago. But she found only a vast, calm silence. "Hate is too heavy a burden to carry, child," Martha said, her voice steady and warm like the southern breeze. "And he didn't take those years. I lived them. I learned from them. I learned that a golden cage is still a cage, no matter how much you polish the bars." She stood up, the sunlight catching the deep green of the emerald necklace that now rested permanently against her skin. It was no longer just a piece of jewelry. It was a badge of honor, a reminder of the night she chose herself over her fear. She looked at Maya, and then out at the other young women, the true legacy she was building. "True dignity isn't about never being disrespected," Martha told her, touching the stone. "It's about knowing who you are when the world tries to tell you otherwise. He tried to make me small so he could feel big. But I learned that you don't need to roar to be powerful. You just need to stand your ground." She smiles at the sun, taking a deep breath of the sweet spring air. She was finally free.